President Mutharika reiterates his government's commitment to address the challenges Malawi is currently facing.
Our headlines this morning. President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika assures Malawians that government is working towards addressing the challenges that the country is facing. The UN Women has described Malawi's institutional accountability during the just-ended general election as a beacon of hope. And now in sports, Silver Strikers have been crowned champions of FDH Bank Cup for the second time.
The puppet day ceremony
President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika has assured Malawians that government is working towards addressing the challenges that the country is facing. Malawi is currently facing fuel shortages, scarcity of fertilizer, and limited foreign exchange reserves. Speaking at Ntontama State Lodge in Lilongwe during a meeting with Ndiami Diop, World Bank Vice President for Eastern and Southern Africa, President Mutharika emphasized that overcoming these challenges will require strong support from development partners such as the World Bank. Doreen Sonani reports.
President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika said his administration is particularly seeking assistance to boost key sectors of the economy by addressing what he described as 4 Fs, namely food, forex, fuel and fertilizer, which he said require immediate action. On the issue of hunger, the president expressed appreciation to the World Bank for the support it has so far pledged towards the cause.
Hunger situation is a serious one. Close to 4 million people are in jeopardy of hunger. We're working with various agencies, including the World Bank, to deal with the situation. Last week I sent Joseph, the minister, to Washington, where he met some of you. And I must say I'm very, very pleased that you came out with a good package, and the World Bank is willing to support us up to $45 million. We actually need $225 million, so I hope that as time goes on, you'll be able to up it a little bit so that we meet the challenge there. So that's the main problem.
In his remarks, Ndiami Diop, World Bank Vice President for Eastern and Southern Africa, reaffirmed the World Bank's commitment to continue supporting Malawi's reforms agenda, saying the institution will work closely with government to help ease the country's ongoing economic difficulties.
We've heard about the government's plans and the reforms that they have already taken, the measures they have taken. And we have committed to really support the government in achieving the objectives they want to achieve, which is reducing the inflation, increasing the foreign exchange in the market, and stimulating economic growth. And the World Bank is supporting projects like Patamanga, which is a really important project that could really bring in foreign exchange, but also stimulate economic activities in this country.
Apart from meeting the president, Diop is expected to hold discussions with some government officials and visit some World Bank-funded projects in Malawi. The World Bank regional chief oversees a portfolio of almost 400 World Bank-funded projects worth about $76 billion and an extensive program of analytical work, technical assistance, and policy advice across 26 countries. Doreen Sonani, MBC News, Lilongwe.
Malawi joined the international community in paying tribute to war veterans in the annual Remembrance Day commemorations. In Lilongwe, the ceremony was led by First Vice President Justice Dr. Jane Ansah, retired, on behalf of President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika. Yamikani Simtoe with the details.
The Pope Day ceremony highlighted the importance of peace and unity as senior government officials, faith leaders, ambassadors representing other countries in Malawi, and various professionals came together to honor and pay tribute to soldiers who fought in the world wars. The ceremony also honored Malawi Defense Force soldiers who lost their lives while serving in modern conflicts and peacekeeping missions in other countries such as Ivory Coast and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Representing the President of Malawi at the ceremony at the Lilongwe War Memorial Pillar was the first Vice President, Justice Dr. Jane Ansah, retired. The First World War began in 1914 and the warring nations ended the conflict at 11 o'clock in the morning on 11 November 1918. This is why the ceremony begins exactly at 11 o'clock. By 10:45 a.m., the troops had assumed their designated positions, and by 10:58 a.m., all senior officials were in place, an embodiment of unity and the dignified pageantry befitting the military occasion. Soldiers fired a maroon, a ceremonial explosive, and then everyone observed 2 minutes of silence before the second maroon was fired. Afterward, the wreath-laying ceremony followed. First to pay homage to the fallen heroes by laying wreath was the first Vice President, Dr. Jane Ansah, followed by the Chief of Defense Force, General George Jaff, and the Inspector General of Malawi Police, Richard Luhanga. Others who laid wreaths at the memorial pillar are Speaker of Parliament Samie Suleiman, Chief Justice Rizin Nzegamanda, Minister of Defense Chimwemwe Chibungu, Chief Secretary to the Government Justin Saidi, Retired General Henry Odilo, and representatives from Lilongwe City Council, Malawi Red Cross Society, and St. John's Ambulance Association, among others. The First World War mobilized more than 65 million soldiers and resulted in the deaths of 10 million combatants, while over 100 million troops participated in the Second World War, with more than 25 million losing their lives. This year's ceremony marks 107 years since the end of the First World War in 1918 and 80 years since the conclusion of the Second World War in 1945. Yamigan Simtowe, MBC Lilongwe.
In Zuzu, the second Vice President, Enoch Chihana, represented the President, Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika, during the Pope Day commemoration, where a cross-section of people attended the event. Chisomo Manda was there and he has filed us this report.
Pope Day, also known as Remembrance Day or Armistice Day, is a day set aside to remember and honor soldiers who died in wars, especially those who fought in World War I and World War II. The day is observed every year on November 11, marking the end of World War I in the year 1918, when fighting stopped on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. This year, however, Malawi and other Commonwealth countries have commemorated the day earlier on 9 November. At exactly 2 minutes before 11 o'clock, the convoy carrying the second Vice President, Enoch Chihana, arrived at Nzuzu Upper Stadium. What followed was a maroon blast and 2 minutes of silence to honor those who lost their lives during the wars. Afterwards, a wreath-laying ceremony took place. The second Vice President, who represented the State President, Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika, at the function, was the first to lay a wreath, followed by other officials. Members of the clergy also took time to pray for peace and coexistence in the country. But why Pope? The red poppy flower became a symbol of remembrance because it grew on the battlefields of Belgium and France after the First World War. The idea was inspired by the famous poem In Flanders Fields by Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, which describes poppies growing among soldiers' graves. Poppy Day continues to be commemorated by Commonwealth countries around the world as a tribute to the bravery and sacrifice of foreign soldiers. Somomanda, MBC News, Nzuzu.
Minister of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare Mary Navija led the Poppy Day commemorations in Zomba on behalf of President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika. The ceremony held at the Zomba Memorial Tower, and Mercy Zamawa captured the moment.
The ceremony started with the sound of the bell tower, followed by the laying of wreaths in honor of soldiers who fought and died in the First and Second World Wars. Navija, who represented President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika, laid a wreath at the monument as a symbol of remembrance and national gratitude. Among other dignitaries who laid wreaths were Second Deputy Speaker of Parliament Esther Jolobala, representing the Speaker of Parliament, Moses Kunkuyu, representing the Leader of Opposition, War Veteran Wadi Temwe, among others. Several religious leaders from different denominations also laid prayers for the nation, the presidency, and both fallen and serving military personnel. The prayers emphasized the need for continued peace in the country, professionalism among security agencies, and hard work among Malawians. The commemoration marked 107 years of honoring and celebrating the courage and sacrifice of soldiers who served in the two world wars. Mercy Zamawa, MBC News, Zomba.
UN Women has described Malawi's institutional accountability during the just-ended general election as a beacon of hope. UN Women Country Representative Leti Shuara said this in Lilongwe during a post-election policy dialogue which attracted various stakeholders, including the judiciary and the civil society. More in this report.
The post-election policy dialogue, which attracted civil society institutions, the judiciary, as well as other public institutions, was held as a post-mortem to assess the successes and weak links in the just-ended general elections. Whilst commenting Malawi's institutional accountability and collaboration, UN Women Country Representative Lady Juara expressed concern over the decline in women representation.
Yes, we have seen more women running as running mates from previous elections. We have seen more women even coming up to run on elected positions, but unfortunately we haven't reached the numbers that we need. For example, at district council level, we have even gone less than what we were in the previous elections. We have moved from something about 21% to 14% in terms of councillors, women councillors. That's a huge drop. At parliamentary level, we have moved from 22% to 21%.
And chairperson of the Judicial Committee on Elections, Dorothy Nyakaunda Kamanga, disclosed that the judiciary is making strides in resolving electoral complaints.
So far, we have disposed of less than 50%, around 48 or so. So that's quite a good number in real terms. However, I think the ones which are still pending are the ones which are challenging the results. The ones who have come along, who contested and they were not successful. So those ones, some have been set down for hearing, others are still pending, others are waiting for judgments.
Malawi is one of the few countries in the SADC region which has on several occasions registered a peaceful transfer of power after general elections. Trust Office, MBC News, Lilongwe.
This is MBC News and you are with me, Evelis Chungambe. A reminder of our top stories. President Mutharika assures Malawians of government's efforts in addressing the challenges they are facing. UN Women describes Malawi's institutional accountability during the just-ended general election as a beacon of hope. And in sports, Silver Strikers crowned FDH Cup champions for the second time. Welcome back. Japan and Malawi have reaffirmed their commitment to human capacity development with renewed focus on driving reforms and job creation in the mining sector. The collaboration continues to inspire Malawian professionals trained in Japan to apply their skills towards national transformation. Emmanuel Chikonso has the details.
It was a night of reflection and renewed purpose at the Japan ambassador's residence in Lilongwe, where alumni of Japan-funded programs met to share experiences and discuss ways to fast-track Malawi's development. Japan's ambassador to Malawi, Yoichi Oya, said education and skills transfer remain central to Japan's cooperation with Malawi, describing human capacity development as the bridge to lasting progress.
The aiming for the gathering is to networking beyond the boundary of the organizations or field, and which is profitable for our embassy as well and the Japanese government as well. We can establish a good partnership between Japan and Malawi, and this scattered communication will be a backbone of this important partnership.
Over the years, hundreds of Malawians have benefited from postgraduate and technical training in Japan, gaining expertise that is now key to Malawi's reform agenda. One of them, Stuart Ngalonde, a principal geologist in the Ministry of Natural Resources, Energy and Mining, said he intends to apply Japan's innovation and discipline to modernize the mining sector so it creates more jobs and it drives industrialization.
When we are talking about real mining, we cannot just be talking about extracting the raw resources and then exporting. I'm glad at this point in time to say that the government of Malawi has issued out a circular to the effect that there should be a cessation of exportation of raw resources. I'm quite happy about that.
For her party director for secondary education in the Ministry of Education, Ruth Samati Kambali, held Japan's continued support, saying the scholarships are vital for building Malawi's knowledge-based economy. She, however, urged returnees to channel their research toward solving local challenges.
When they come back here in Malawi, they implement their research papers. It's one thing to have the research, and it's another thing to implement what you researched about.
As mining takes shape as a critical pillar in Malawi's development blueprint, the growing partnership between Japan and Malawi's alumni network is expected to serve as a catalyst for innovation, policy reform, and employment creation. Emmanuel Chikonso, MBC News, Lilongwe.
Minister of Health and Sanitation Madalitso Baloyi has advised graduates from the Malawi College of Health Sciences to work with diligence and uphold values of their professions into practice. She said this during the graduation ceremony of Malawi College of Health Sciences in Lilongwe. More in this report by Vincent Masea, being read by Catherine Banda.
Speaking during the graduation ceremony in Lilongwe, Minister of Health and Sanitation, Madalitso Baloyi, highlighted that the government is concerned with continuous complaints on conduct of health officers from the public. Baloyi said her ministry is looking into ways it can create employment and pleaded with the private sector to continue bringing on board the graduates.
The ministry is currently looking into those issues to ensure that job opportunities are created, and also we are encouraging even the private sector to continue absorbing these people that are graduating, because you can work in the ministry, you can work in the private sector, but as long as you're serving Malawians in the health sector, that is what is important.
Executive Director of Malawi College of Health Sciences, Alice Kadango, advised the graduates to practice what they have learned and become competitive at what they do.
We have our graduates, and most of them, they undergo a module on ethics and professionalism. In the clinical area, we are putting measures so that they are well supervised and there are mentors there to make sure that they demonstrate the professionalism and the ethical behavior which is expected out there. What I can comment is that sometimes, they are carried away. And I would urge that they reflect the vow, the oath that they had done today, and it will remind them to work with integrity.
1,177 students have graduated from the college with certificates and diplomas in various faculties from all the institution's campuses.
The Department of Immigration and Citizenship Services has cautioned Malawians seeking employment abroad to follow necessary procedures before making a decision to work in foreign countries. Public Relations Officer for Mansa Border in the department, Sofina Chibetu, was speaking following deportation of 490 Malawians from South Africa. She speaks to our reporter, Telson Makumbo.
Yes, it is true. We received 490 Malawians who have been deported from the Republic of South Africa. These Malawians have been deported because they contravened the immigration laws of South Africa. There are offences such as working without permits and residing in South Africa without any permit, or doing business without permits. So once they are caught on the streets or maybe at their workplace, they are taken to police and they go through legal processes. If Malawians are willing to work in a foreign country, there are procedures which they are supposed to follow. First of all, they need to acquire a traveling document, mostly which is a passport that can take them to South Africa. They are supposed to approach immigration to ask which are the right procedures they are supposed to follow so that they will be able to work in South Africa.
In sports, Silver Strikers have been crowned champions of FDH Bank Cup for the second consecutive year after defeating Mighty Wanderers 5-4 in the post-penalties after a 1-1 stalemate in regulation time at Bingo National Stadium in Lilongwe. Details with Emmanuel Chigonso.
Nixon Marseille! Silver Strikers are the champions! It's staying in Lilongwe!
It was a thrilling afternoon of football at Bingo National Stadium in Lilongwe as Silver Strikers were crowned champions of the 2025 FDH Bank Cup, defeating Mighty Wanderers 5-4 in post-match penalties after a dramatic 1-1 draw in regulation time. The tension was high from the first whistle, with the Nomads Mighty Wanderers taking an early lead. A well-timed corner kick from Isaac Chia Kaliati found Blessings Singini, who powered home a header in 23rd minute, sending the blue side of the stadium into jubilation. Despite dominating possession, Silver Strikers, the Bankers missed several chances in the first half. But the comeback came in the second half when Maxwell Pipe converted from the spot, leveling the game 1-1 after consistent pressure from the Lilongwe Giants. As the clock ticked down, both sides pushed for a winner but couldn't find the net, sending the game to a nerve-wracking penalty shootout. The shootout turned into pure drama as 5 Wanderers and 4 Silver Strikers players failed to convert their kicks. Among the misses were Stanley Sanudi and Dalitso Kungwa for Wanderers, while George Chikooka, Emmanuel Allen also missed their spot kicks. In the end, it was Silver Strikers centre-back Nixon Mwase who held his nerve and bullied the decisive penalty, sealing a 5-4 victory for the Bankers. The win marks Silver Strikers' second FDH Cup triumph, their first coming in 2021. They now join Nyasa Big Bullets as the only 2 teams to have lifted prestigious trophy twice. Emmanuel Chikonso, MBC News, Lilongwe.
In international news, South African Foreign Ministry has described the decision by the White House not to attend the G20 summit scheduled for the 22nd and 23rd of this month in South Africa as regrettable. Spokesperson for the ministry, Crispin Perry, told BBC that success of the summit will not rest on one member state and that there is no genocide in South Africa. President for the United States of America, Donald Trump, posted on social media platforms platform that it is a total disgrace that the G20 will be held in South Africa, where a lot of human rights abuses continue.
Been a haven for those fleeing communist tyranny in South Africa. I mean, if you take a look at what's going on in parts of South Africa, look at South Africa, what's going on. Look at South America, what's going on. You know, I'm not going to, we have a G20 meeting in South Africa. South Africa shouldn't even be in the Gs anymore because what's happened there is bad. I'm not going. I told them I'm not going. I'm not going to represent our country there. It shouldn't be there.
And that's it from our newsroom this morning. A recap of our top stories before we leave. President Mutharika assures Malawians of government's efforts in addressing the challenges they are facing. UN Women describes Malawi's institutional accountability during the just-ended general election as a beacon of hope. And in sports, Silver Strikers crowned FDH Cup champions for the second time. For more news, visit our Facebook page, Embassy Digital. You were with me, Evelis Jungambe. Thanks for watching and good morning.
Introducing official sponsor for Zokondamai matches at 2025, Maranatha Academy.
You cannot talk about mother's love without mentioning Maranatha Academy.
It's on and it's happening at the BICC in Lilongwe on the 15th of November 2025.
That's why Maranatha Academy and NBC have partnered again for the 2025 Zokondamai Macheza.
For advertising and sponsorship, please call 0886 703 159, 0888 891 194 or 0881 551 344.
Maranatha Academy. We set the pace, others follow. Hey, yeah! Kumalawi, Nangai Magampanimo, latest Maiva, Mlendo na megezeka kumambo wa chakachino cha Zokondamai Macheza di Mai Wafuko. Her Excellency, Madam Professor Gertrude Mutharika. Kodi, mwakonzeke kuipata moto pa 15 November labano. Ndiye kuli dansi fumbi kabo di Miracle Chinga. Ziwani zambiri poimba phone pa manambala awa 0886 703 159, 0888 891 194, 0881 551 344, Kabena 0881 258 831.
Anybody like that here? And let me hear you say it loud and clear.